Today I'm taking you on a trail guide for Box Canyon Trail 1356. So this trail is just outside Apache Junction and it's right off Highway 88. You can see right here, you turn right in and you enter a big staging area. So it's wide open, perfect place to air down and just kind of get your bearings for the trail. It's also where it has some of the information on the trail and it tells you pretty clearly that you're gonna need a permit. So you do need a permit and you can go to, I believe, recreation.gov. I'll try to remember to put it in the description below, but they've got a few day pass and they have a year pass. I always get the year pass because it also covers a couple different OHV areas, but definitely get that, you know. I've never been out where anyone's actually checking, you know, to see if you actually have it, but that's not what it's about. It's about making sure we keep the trails good. You know, these things do maintain the areas for us and just things like that. Like if you're gonna give your government any money, it's to keep off-road trails. All right, I'm excited to announce my first milestone. This is trail vlog 25 on my road to 500 trail vlogs. So this is Bulldog Canyon 1356. It's 5.4 miles long, and it took me an hour and 45 minutes to complete. Now, keep in mind, I'm also stopping to get the drone in the air. I'm going a little bit slower because I'm filming stuff. So I probably add about 20% to each trail that I do. So keep that in mind. Also, if you guys are new here, my Jeep is on 38s and I have a 3-inch lift. That just gives you an idea of how my Jeep might do compared to yours. This is a scout trail on the Trails Off-Road app and they rate it a moderate trail. They don't give it a number rating, but I'd give it about a 3. I don't think it's quite difficult enough to give it a 4, but keep in mind with the Arizona monsoon, the ruts and the trails can change at any time. So if you're watching this trail down the road, it could definitely become a 4. I don't think it'll ever be able to get to anything above that though. I do think this is a good trail for beginners. Now, maybe not an absolute beginner. I think you might want some easier trails under your belt before you do this. But if you're early on in your journey, this is a good place to start. There's nothing too difficult. I wouldn't even consider there to be any obstacles on the trail. There's 1 or 2 slightly steep hill climbs, but again, that's even being generous. It's a good way to get used to the Arizona desert, but again, nothing you're gonna need a spotter for. You're not gonna have to get out and check your surroundings. But also, if you're not a beginner, it's just a great place to get out in the desert, get some great scenery. It's still a really fun trail, even if you're not pushing yourself to the limit. I still had a great time coming out here, seeing the saguaros, and just being surrounded by the desert. So a few of you guys said to drop down to 12 PSI on the trail. That's the lowest I've ever gone. Usually I go 15, 16, but I went to 12 this time to see how it did because I've seen that that's about as low as you really want to go before you could accidentally pop off a bead, or at least the risk is higher. But I will say, man, it is a lot softer. Like this is a really bumpy trail, like rocks, boulders and stuff. Nothing huge, but it's just very bumpy. And I will say it's quite smooth. I can feel the squishiness of it, so it's really nice. I think 12 might be my new PSI every time I go out. Who knows though? I got to see how it holds up. It's not even really going to be tested on this trail because it's not that difficult, so I don't even think there's a risk of popping off a bead, but you never know. Like I mentioned, it is definitely a bumpy ride. And for that reason, you are going to want to air down. I mean, I'm probably a broken record. I say it in every video, and I will continue to say it in every video. I highly recommend you air down at least a little bit if you're going to come out on these trails. If for nothing else, it just makes the ride smoother. So as you can see in this shot, most of the trail you're actually going to be driving away from the Superstition Mountains. So you're not really going to see them as you're heading down this trail. But worry not, there is some awesome views down the road here. So just be patient because there's going to be some pretty cool rock formations and mountains further up the trail. All right, so up until this point, the trail for the most part has been about the same. This right here is going to be the most difficult part of the trail so far, and I would not even call it difficult, but I did want to bring it to your attention that this is so far going to be your hardest part of the trail. It's just a slow, rockier descent, but again, nothing too crazy. Also note how squishy those 12 PSI tires look. It's looking pretty good. You're going to go down this ridgeline a little bit until you see a sign that says 1356. That's when you know you're on the current trail. Obviously, you could keep going forward if you wanted, but I'm sticking to the trail. This is actually probably going to be your most difficult spot of the trail. It doesn't look like much, but it is pretty steep. So the technique I like to do is make sure I'm going down the hill as straight as possible. If I would have just turned while descending, I just don't think that's the best way. You get really off camber and it can lead to some problems. So I turned wide, aligned my wheels straight down the hill so I could go down completely straight. So throughout this trail, there's a handful of little spin-off trails, like little ones that jet off to the sides, kind of like this one right here. Now, I didn't take this trail, but it looks like it just goes up and then comes right back to the main trail. It would be fun to come out here on an adventure and map all these extra side trails, but you also got to be careful that you're not going on a forbidden or blocked trail, because there are some areas out here that are off limits to off-road vehicles. Usually, though, they're marked pretty clearly. This is something that's really important on the trail, is trail etiquette and respecting really the rules. So right over here, you've got a cool rocky hill climb here. Another looks like a fun rocky hill climb there. And I really want to do it. But to be honest, it says area closed to motorized vehicles. It's important to me that we keep these trails open as long as possible. And if people keep going off trail, especially when it's clearly marked not to, that's how we're going to lose our privileges. So just don't go on those. I mean, they look like fun, but there's plenty of trails that have obstacles way harder than this that are perfectly legal to go on. So I think this is a good portion of the trail that just shows how rocky it really is. This is what will keep you from picking up a whole lot of speed because it could get pretty bumpy, but overall, this is about as rocky as it's going to get, but it's like this for a majority of the trail. So there are a lot of intersections on this trail, and for the most part, there should always be a trail marker, and it's going to keep you on the correct trail because you could easily get turned around if you miss one of these markers, or if you don't have an Onyx or Trails Off-Road or something like that. But definitely keep an eye out for those. If you're going to be doing any amount of off-roading, an app is a no-brainer. All right, so I got a couple fun facts about the saguaro cactus. The average cactus does not gain an arm until about 50 to 75 years old, which is pretty crazy. And then for a second arm to grow, it could be 10 to 25 years after that. So any of these cactus right here that have multiple arms are at least like 75 to 100 years old, which is just crazy. And that's just when the second arm starts growing. I mean, look how big that one on the left. Some of these cactus are just huge. But another really interesting fact is the tallest saguaro on record was actually in Cave Creek in 1978. It was 78 feet tall and was actually armless and still estimated to be 150 years old, which is just crazy because the average saguaro is like 40 to 50 feet tall when it's mature. Earlier in the video, I mentioned you'd have Superstition Mountains to your back, so you won't really have that view. But I also mentioned you're going to be getting some really nice views if you hang on. So right as you come to the top of this hill is what I'm talking about. You start to see these awesome rock formations, and you can get pretty close to them. The trail takes you right to the base, but it's definitely really gorgeous right here. So when I was on this trail, I really noticed this giant yellow mountain in the background, and I wanted to know what made it that color, so I looked it up, and it turns out that it's actually made from ancient volcanic ash that hardened into rock millions of years ago. And that's why these mountains here look so smooth and sun-bleached compared to everything else around them. something that's really frustrating about this trail is the amount of trash I'm seeing. Like, I've already got a whole bag's worth in the back, and it's like beer bottles and beer cans and everything. Like, people, I don't understand. Who are you that's out here, one, drinking while off-roading, and then I'm just gonna throw it out the window? Like, can we not do that anymore? And if you see anyone doing that, tell them not to, please, because it is not cool. Like, those are the things, again, like going off trail, throwing your beer litter everywhere is why we're gonna get these trails shut down. Our trails have so much trash, and the sad thing is it's mostly beer and soda bottles out there. Like, just pick up some at least. And even if it means getting a little jumping choya on your boot, this wasn't very fun. It's also why I try to wear some boots when I'm out there. But yeah, honestly, like I was saying, I think just pick up some trash, even if it's like one grocery bag worth, or just as you see it. Obviously, like, you can't just constantly be picking up trash, because some trails, there's so much that you would never finish the trail. I mean, this is why I hosted a trail cleanup. We were out there for hours and got hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and there was still so much more. So I think if you do a little bit on each trail, and if everybody does that, I think that's going to make the desert a lot more clean. Example of a little hill climb I did that was not the official trail. Now, at the time, I thought it was the trail. I took my eye off the TruOffroad app and got a little bit lost, but only about 100 yards or so. But it did give me a pretty cool view and a little higher elevation on the valley below. And this area wasn't blocked off. So that's kind of what I was talking about before, is there's a lot of these little offshoot trails. Not all of them are off limits. So you can kind of go exploring and do what you want. But I'd have an app like Onyx or Trails Off Road just to make sure you're on trail and don't get lost, because I definitely had to open mine back up. Once you get to this big intersection, you're going to want to turn left to keep you on the correct trail. So I sound like a broken record here, but look right here on the left, there's this rocky hill climb. It just looks like a lot of fun, and I don't see a sign that says it's a closed area, so I definitely got to get back here. I'm going to map these trails out because I want to try them. I think it'd be kind of a cool video idea too, to go to a certain area that might not have an official app or might not have an official trail on Trails Off Road or something, and just make the guide myself. I think that'd be pretty fun. So once you get to this sandy wash area, you know you're on the home stretch. The trail is just about done. Then really your only decision is, do you keep going and exploring Bulldog Canyon, or do you call it a day? Once you come up this hill, then 1356 is over, and you're now on Trail 10. If I was to turn right there, that would take me all the way to Bush Highway. I've actually done it before, actually two times, and I just never did a trail vlog about it. So I got that on the docket for upcoming trails, so keep an eye out for that in the future. I hope you liked the video. This is an amazing moderate trail. There's so much more to explore in Bulldog Canyon, which I plan on doing. So please like the video and subscribe for more, because I got many more coming. See you in the next one.